Hello all, I hope you hear me well. We will still wait a little bit to start the webinar to be sure that everybody is here. Don't hesitate to tell me in the chat if you have any problem, if you don't hear me or you don't see me or you don't see the slide. Hi Cyril. Hello from Belgium. I see we are international today. Just to inform everybody, the replay will be available after the webinar, so you will receive normally a link with the video and the slides. So don't worry if you cannot stay or if you have nothing to write. You will receive everything after the webinar. If you have any question, you can put it in the chat, but don't hesitate. There is also a place for questions next to the chat. So put it in the chat or in the questions, and I will try to answer. So I will let some space at the end of the webinar to answer some questions. But you also can also contact me or Universum for more specific questions or even other kind of recommendations you need. We will be still available after that. Okay, so I think I will just wait 1 or 2 minutes to be sure that everybody is here, and I will start soon with our webinar. So the aim is to speak about some fears that perhaps a lot of companies can see now because of the lockdown and all the rules because of the coronavirus. So we'll speak about 3 of them. Of course, we just have less than 1 hour. So we will focus on specific recommendation, but there are a lot more to do. So I hope that it will at least answer some of your questions, but don't hesitate if you have more. There are plenty of other tips we can give you still available on our blog or other webinar or video on our YouTube channel and so on. So don't hesitate to follow us to be sure to have everything and all the tips useful for you. So I will start our webinar. So today the aim is to, yes, like I said, to speak about the main SEO, but more globally digital assets you can meet during this lockdown, and be sure that you at least take the main major step, measure to be sure to stay online and answer to your customer needs in this specific situation. So the agenda of today is to speak about first the impact of the lockdown, some numbers that we already see in some companies and the behaviors of our customers. And the second is to speak about some optimization of SEO. We will more focus on all mobile aspects and product pages. You will see why in the coming slides. Then some tips about local SEO, because we know that shops are now closed, but we will be able to reopen again since the 11th of May in Belgium. I know that in France and some other country it can be delayed. And finally, some content marketing tips to be sure to communicate with your clients in this specific distanciation situation. So first, some lockdown consequences that we see. Of course, if most of the shops are closed, it means that people will not be able to go on your shops. We see also that people have to stay home, that companies need to close because they cannot make teleworking, or they cannot make enough measures to ensure the health of their employees. So all this means that people are more and more closed in their home with no contact with the outside world, instead of contact thanks to digital. So we see that the only way to shop some goods or to contact our relatives is through digital. So the digital is practically the only way for some companies to be able to have small lives again. Because of this, we already see, for example, in France, that 62% of the people are more on their smartphone than before. Globally, it means that for a lot of people, there are more than 3 hours, sometimes even 4 hours per day on their phones. So it means that the needs of this device is even more important than before. That's why we will focus on mobile optimization in the coming slides. We also see that instead of despite the smartphone, the consumption of screen is even better and even bigger, also for computers and TV, because of course if people from home, they need their computer, and they also spend a lot of time on TV to see the news or to find some divertisements. So the use of internet is also booming, and we also see some changes in the online consumption. So we see that people are looking more for food, for home working features like computer, screen, mouse, or some leisure they can make like gardening and so on. But other goods like fashion goods are really decreasing in the needs of people. So it's a big change for a lot of companies that they need to take into account to be sure that what they will do now fits that kind of changes. Some concrete examples. So I don't know if you see my colleague Howard make a small video to explain you how to use Google Trends. But Google Trends is really a nice tool for now to see how your consumer, how people are interesting anymore, yes or no, in your product. So for example, if we look for home workouts, we see that people are really interested in fitness at home during this lockdown, because it's impossible anymore to go on some sports building, and also because they need to find some stuff to stay healthy and to do stuff at home. So we see really a big an increase of interest in that kind of research. We also see that food delivery make a big increase of interest. Travel cancel make a big peak at the beginning of the lockdown because people had booked already their, for example, holiday or for past or for other kind of holiday periods. They already booked their holiday, but had to cancel now. So they made a lot of research at the beginning of March. And in the opposite, we also see some interest decreasing in some specific sector of activity. So if I look for amusement park, we see that in March and April, the interest was lower than it was previous year. And we see that normally we should enter on the high season for this kind of request, but now it's really decreasing. So that kind of search with Google Trends can give you an idea of how much your customer can be interested in your product right now. It can help you to know what you will do and try to find the right thematics to optimize now. Also, another study from Neil Patel, so it's a famous guy in SEO. He makes some study to see in which activity sectors the traffic was growing or decreasing. And we clearly see that it almost decreased for all activities, despite finance, food, healthcare, or media and pharma that see a big increase. So globally, you see that almost all companies are on the same packet. And so, yes, it means that you will have to find other way to grab traffic in your website, or perhaps rebalance your budget to be sure that if you cannot manage and you cannot grab traffic now because people are not interested, there are other ways to try to contact them and stay on their top of mind. So globally, with all this situation of the lockdown, we see that there are three main fields that we will develop here. The first one is the fact that if people are looking more online, it's important for you to be found online. But there are a lot of companies right now that cannot be found online. So how can you do it to try to push your visibility online in the coming weeks, and perhaps also start or optimize your e-commerce to be able to sell your product online? The second fear is the fact that you have to close your shop, all your stores, but you will have to reopen it again. But perhaps people will not dare to go to your shop right now because they know that there are more risks. So even if it's allowed for you to reopen the shop, perhaps people cannot dare to come. So how can you try to attract people to your store again and be sure that your shop and your stores can be found online to boost your online and offline visibility? And the last fear is the fact that you had to take physical distances with your customers. So you cannot make any sales, any contact right now with them, but how you can keep a good relationship with them in this particular situation, we will see that content marketing can be a good solution for you. So the first fear we will develop is the fact that you cannot be found online. So how to increase your online visibility. So of course, we see that people are more and more online during the lockdown, but if you're not, it will be a big problem because you will not be able to get this traffic. So here we will see that SEO is the perfect solution for you. But of course, SEO is a complete and really big strategy. We cannot develop everything now in 1 hour. So I will focus on big trends for SEO since 1 or 2 years. It's the mobile. Mobile is now even more important because it's been like 1 year that Google launched its mobile first index. It means that now to index your website, Google will only look the mobile version of the website, but not anymore the desktop. So to rank the mobile and desktop website, it will only look how well optimized is your mobile website. We also see with the lockdown that people are even more and more on their smartphone than before. So it means that it's even more important for you to have a well-optimized mobile website. So concretely, how can you do that? The first tip is to be sure to not cut all your content. It's a typical error and mistakes that we see for a lot of clients is the fact that because we think that on mobile we need to make a lot of space, we will cut all the content. But it's not good because to rank in SEO, it's really important to have content and well optimized content. So the aim will be to try to find a good mix between SEO and UX. So you will use content, but with accordions or that kind of stuff to hide a part of the content and be sure that it's easier for users and it's not too much content at first sight for user. But of course, be sure that you see these accordions and that user can see that there are hidden content. So don't be afraid to use the plus sign or an hour to show them how to discover this hidden content. Although don't hide the majority of your content, it's still important to have direct visible content. So make a big, try to find the big proportion between the content shown and the content hidden behind accordions. And also prioritize your content. So be sure that the most important information is directly seen by the user. And after, for example, the details can be hidden in accordions. Another tip for mobile optimization is the fact that it's always better to use the responsive design. So to have only one website that can both fit mobile and desktop, and avoid to have a separate website for mobile and desktop. We still see that kind of solution with, for example, a M.dot website for the mobile for some clients, but every time a company use that solution, we see a lot of mistakes. So, for example, on the mobile website, if it's separated, we see that they cut the contents, they remove some links, or they remove the breadcrumbs because it takes too much place. No, it's really important to keep contents, to keep all the links, and to keep brandings and breadcrumbs and so on, because everything will help the optimization and to rank on Google. So if you think to have two separated websites because you want to remove some from the mobile, it will penalize the ranking of your website, even on desktop. So prefer to use the responsive design to be sure to have all the right optimization, but only the optimization will fit the size of the screen. And the third tip for mobile, it can be easy to say, but really hard to implement. It's the speed. Because on mobile, users are more and more impatient and they really want the information fast. It's important that your website load fast. So there is some little tips, for example, to be sure that your website load fast. For example, you can compress the pictures. So it means that you still need to have some quality. So the pictures need to be nice for the users, but you can compress it and be sure that you are sending the pictures in each size of screen possible to make it load easier. You can also make your file lighter by removing the unused code to be sure that it's simplified and so easier to load because it's lighter. You can also choose a powerful host. And if you take a host that is near you, so for example, if you are in Belgium, if you take a host in Belgium or in France, it's always better than if you take one in, for example, the United States, because closer means faster to load. Also, you can always take benefits from caching, and there are plenty other kind of solution to make your website faster. Don't hesitate to discuss that with your developers, because we know that sometimes because of design, because of JavaScript, there are plenty of codes that will slow down your website. So it's important to find the right balance between design, user accessibility, but also, of course, the loading. So that's it for all the mobile optimization to be sure that to be more visible online. Another aspect to be easier to especially for e-commerce, but I'm sure that even if you don't shop online, there are some tips that you will be able to use in your website. So for the e-commerce, here we will focus on the product pages. So there are a lot of other pages to optimize, but of course, without more time, we will focus on one of the main important pages. The first tips is to be sure to understand what are the difference between a category page and a product page, because they will both not try to reach the same goal, and so they will not focus the same keywords, for example. So a category page, so here it's for e-commerce, but of course it can be applied for all of the pages, for all of the kind of websites. So a category page, the aim is to attract people that still want information. So they, for example, know the kind of product they want. So for example, they know they want computers, but they still don't know what specific kind of computers they want. So they will still search for information, comparison, and they will look information to be able to know what kind of specific products they want. So the keywords here to optimize will be broader. It will be more the keywords related to the category of product, so the category product name, the kind of sea of keywords with choose, comparison, and so on. That all kind of keywords can be interesting to integrate in those pages. For example, we can have basket Adidas for men. In a product page, we will be more specific because here the client already know the kind of product, the specific product he wants. So on the previous phase, he makes some comparison. Now he know that he wants that specific product. So the goal will be more the purchase and more long tail keywords to optimize, because now he will know the color, the size, the specific features, all kind of elements to add on the product to be sure to find the right one. So for example, with the basket Adidas, now he will be able to know, okay, I want the basket Adidas Superstar in blue, size 41 for men. We see that the keywords is more specific. It's really important for you to make this distinction, because it will help you to optimize your content to the right thematic, and also to choose the right template of the page and the right content to know, okay, here I know that I need to inform, but in the do phase, I need to make the purchase. So the call to action will be even more important. In a product page, another tips to optimize it's to be sure to not only focus on the product description, but to optimize all the complete pages. So we see that there are a lot of kind of information and specific place on the pages to optimize. So of course, one of the main important thing is the SEO tags. So the URL, the title tag, the meta description tag. Don't hesitate to put in the chat if you don't know what it is. You have to be sure that it's clear and consistent. So it means that in between all your product page, you have the same kind of structure. For example, you can have the brand, the kind of product, the color, the size, the target, so man or woman, and then the name of your company. You can choose a specific structure and be sure that it's consistent between all the product pages. The other thing is, of course, the product description. You can have a short one and a long one. The short one will be able to give the most important information at the top of the page, and the long description will make you develop more the thematic and also more the semantic to integrate as much as long tail keywords as possible, and so bring more content to the page. Below the fold, to be sure that, okay, for SEO there are enough content, but it didn't denigrate the user experience on the page and the call to action. So be sure to try to have at least 150 words, but if you can do more, do more. Third stuff really important on a product page is the pictures. So try to have several pictures with the different angle, the different view of the product to make it want to buy by the user, but also to optimize it for SEO. Because if you add the right alt attributes, so it's like 4 to 6 words to add to the pictures to make Google understand what's about the pictures, what it's about. So as Google cannot see the pictures, you will give him textual information about it. It will be able to rank on, for example, Google pictures, so people can find the products through your pictures. So for example, you will go on Google, you will go on the images of Google, you will search for a specific basket Adidas, and you will say, okay, this one, I really like it. So it will go to your website through the pictures. So it's important to optimize it. You can also optimize the product features, so the colors, the size, the functionalities of the product, etc. So try to be to add as much as possible features about your product. Also put information about the stock. So if possible, say if there are 5 more, 10 more, or if you don't have any stock yet, make a possibility for the user to be warned when the product will be back, and be sure that they can have it. It's important because it can create the feeling of emergency for the buying, but also don't make them really upset if they add it to their bag, and when they want to complete the sell up, the product isn't in stock anymore. So the stock is important to reassure the user. Another important thing is the ratings and reviews. So try to always make possible for user to write contents and to make a rating about the product. People really like to give their feedback, but they also like to see the feedback of others to be sure that the product they will buy is the right one for them. Also put the right call to action on the page, so always have a buy button, but think about other kind of action they can do, like saving the products in their favorite ones, or share to friends and so on. You should also think about the cross and upselling. So it's, for example, on a product page, you will have some places where they will propose other kind of product, like the similar product, or also the you may also like that. You can propose other kind of products in the same category, but also try to make upselling with some other products a little bit more expensive, but appropriate and relevant about this product. So for example, we can think about some baskets, but when you put shoes, you will need some socks, but we can propose also socks and link to some products for socks on the product page. And the last thing to optimize on a product page is the footer, where you will have all the same information between all the pages. So the information about the delivery, the order, the return, and so on, it will be the same for all pages. So try to put them on the footer and optimize it to make them really nice view and really easy to understand for user, to reassure them and make them want to buy. Of course, everything here is more about SEO, but never forget to optimize your page for UX, because it's a lot of information to add on one page. So be sure that for user, and even more on mobile, it's easy to see all this information and to understand it. This is just an example I made to see how it can look like in a product page to have all the information. So you can see that we have here the product name with the ratings. We will have the different pictures with the different color available, the different size, the product features, the stock, the price. We will have 2 call to action for the buy and the saving, a short description. Here we will have the cross-selling and the upselling, the long description, the user reviews, the footer, and we can also think about a chatbot to help user make their buy. So you see that it can seem to be a lot of information, but when you put it in a page and you think about design and user experience, you can have something really nice. Also try to have above the fold, so on the first screen visible on your phone and on the desktop, to have all this information available, because it's the most important one. Behind all that content and textual information, don't forget to add the right tags. So Google is more and more appreciating the structured data. that kind of data will help Google understand the kind of content he's seeing. So if it's a price, if it's a picture, if it's an FAQ, if it's a rating, you will add some tag to show him what kind of content it is. So don't hesitate to add them and add it as much as possible, because it can help you to have more nice visibility on Google. So I don't know if you already see, but sometimes you have question or you have some product pictures and so on. This is the kind of visibility you can have thanks to structured data. The third tip for a product page is to avoid duplication. It can be really hard for a big e-commerce because we know that we have a lot of products that are practically the same. So try to make your product page as unique as possible. So if you have one product page, one product with different size or different color, try to have one URL, and it will be the CMS that will make the works for a user to propose the different size and the different color. But every time on the same URL. Also, try to not copy-paste the product description from the brand website. So, for example, if you are selling products from Apple or from Samsung or, I don't know, another brand, be sure to not copy-paste its content, because you will have duplicate content, and the brand website will be always more relevant for that kind of research than yours, so it will rank better than you. If you sell your product on some marketplaces like Amazon or else, be sure to not copy paste your product description on those websites as well. So, for example, you will keep your better optimized product description for you, and you will put on the marketplaces some less optimized description. And also, if you see that it's really impossible for you to avoid the duplication, be sure to use the right canonical tag. So you will say, between those two duplicate pages, I choose to rank the A page. So the B page will send a canonical tag to the A page to say, okay, me, I'm a duplicate, but don't look at me, only look at this original page. And also, if you have a lot of page to rewrite to be sure that the content is unique, always prioritize, because we know that it's a lot of work. So start, for example, with your best sale product. It can be a good way to already see in a short period of time to see some good feedback in terms of traffic and conversion. The last tip about the product page is how to find some inspiration for your content. You can be surprised how much content the customers can give you. So don't hesitate to see the reviews and comments in your website, but also on other websites, to find ideas about content. So you will see what they like about the product, what they don't like, and so what kind of information they need. So, for example, for some clothes, we see that it's important for user to know the right size to choose, because it's really annoying when you receive a pants or shoes and you see, okay, I think it was my size, but at the end, no. So there are plenty of ideas they can give you through comments on some on other websites. You can also see tutorials, video, and so on. So yes, take inspiration by the users. It's the end of the first question, so I don't know if you have question about that or if I continue. So don't hesitate to say on the chat if it's okay for you, or if you have question now. I will still let some time at the end. But yes, I prefer to be sure that everybody understand the first part before continuing. I'll let 1 minute for that. So for B2B websites, we see that the most challenging thing is the fact that the requests are often more smaller. So we see that we are almost every time in that kind of long tail keywords. But globally, you can also have the same kind of optimization. So you will say, I have the different kind of services or products I propose to my customer, to my B2B clients. and I will say, okay, this is more a category page and this is more a product page, and you will try to optimize the keywords, but sometimes you will just have one level because it's more smaller keywords. So it's hard to give better advice here, because B2B can be really broad. You have more broader B2B like coffee machine and more smaller one. But yes, the aim is always to start from the request, from the thematic. So to look, for example, on Google Trends, if you see any keywords on the Google Keyword Planner, to find the right keywords to optimize, and make a mapping of your different page and different level of page, and see what kind of keywords you can optimize. Okay, I see that there are no questions anymore. So I will pass to the second point. So here it will be more some tips to improve your local SEO. So of course, local SEO is even more important for stores and retail, but there are already tips if you also have one company to improve your Google My Business page. So don't worry, I hope that it will be interesting for everybody. So first, when we speak about the local SEO, it's to understand the request of the user. So what are requests that are defined as local by Google? We have two possibilities. The first one is the fact that the local aspect is clearly mentioned in the request. So for example, people are looking for restaurants near me or close by, or they will speak about a location in particular. So for example, I'm looking for a shop, electronic shop in Brussels, and so on. But we also see that some requests don't explicitly mention the local, but Google will understand those requests as local, because you know that when people search for that kind of product, services, company, they want some local information. It's, for example, when you look for Chinese restaurants, it will always give you local information, even if you don't mention it in your request. If you think about, when you search for a garage, a shop, a cinema, and so on, an event, it's in most of the case, you will have local results also. So if we go back to the customer journey, we will see that the local is really interesting to optimize, because it's requests that are really close to the conversion. So on the first side, they can search for a specific shop, and so it will be more branding. So for example, if they are looking for MediaMarkt, they will know that they want to go on the shop. So it's really clear that we are on the do phase. But if we are looking for near me, close by information, or some shops that are in, for example, Brussels, we know that the customer will perhaps compare the different results he will see, but he will go to a shop after that. So it's really close to the conversion. The statistics show that with the local research, we have a lot of calls and visits to store after that. So how to optimize your local SEO? There are three supports to optimize. The first one will be your Google My Business pages, your website. So it means more the store pages, but also, for example, the contact page if you only have one location. And the last one is the third-party websites. So for the Google My Business, this is the list of all information you can add in a Google My Business page. So be sure to add as much as possible information and be as specific as possible. The basic will have to integrate the name of your store, of your company, the address, and the phone number. So it's really the basic. Without that, you cannot create any page. But also try to add some categories, relevant categories of business. So be specific. For example, don't say that you are only a restaurant, but for example, that you are a Chinese restaurant. Don't say that you are just a shop, but also try to explain what kind of shop you are. So choose the most relevant and most specific categories as possible. For the website URL, try to also add the most relevant one. So if you only have one company, you will perhaps use your home page. But if you have one Google My Business page for each store, try to add the URL that go to the web store page on your website. So for example, if you are speaking here about a Google My Business page for your store in Odergem, you will choose the URL that speak about the shop in Odergem on your website. Also about the opening hours, don't forget to update them. So you know that there are some specific clause for now. Be sure that it mention it, because user really hate when they see that a shop is open, and when they go on the place, they see that it's closed. So always think to have the most updated information. Also about the pictures, try to have qualitative one and as much as possible. So you can add pictures of the outside of the shop, of the inside, of some products and so on. Be careful, because users can also add a lot of pictures, and we see a lot of not qualitative pictures added by them, for example, selfies and so on. So make some filter on the Google My Business page to always have the most important one. If you can have a video that can show the complete view of the the store, it's always a nice to have. About the attributes, it's the fact that you can say that you have the Wi-Fi, you can, for example, have the accessibility for the PMR and so on. So add as much attributes as possible. And the post, it's some information, some kind of blog post you can add directly on the Google My Business page. So it's all the nice to have on the Google My Business page. Of course, there are also reviews and questions that can be asked by users on the Google My Business page. Be sure that you often see and often check all that reviews and FAQ to respond and react as fast as possible, because it's really important for them to have a feedback from you. They will see that there are someone behind the page, and that it's not just information, but it's really interaction, communication, and customer relationship. And of course, if you had bad reviews, it's even more important to answer and be sure that you take the control of the situation as fast as possible, to be sure that the client will not spread his negativity on all the website. About the website, what you should optimize. So here, for example, it's the page for Decathlon Namur. They are basically the same information that you will integrate on the Google My Business page. So you can put the name of the store, you can put the address, the phone numbers, the opening hours, a map, etc. But be sure that all information you will add on your website are the same that you put on the Google My Business page. If Google see different information, it will really be bad for you on local SEO. And of course, always the title tag and the meta description tag, where you will put as much information as possible. So for example, be sure that you have the name of the store, the name of the location, and for example, some informative information in the description, like the address or the phone number. So for B2B globally, here, if you only have one agency or one company, will have only one page. It can be the content pages and the contact page. If you are B2B with several locations, the aim will be perhaps to have a page for each one. In B2B, I think it's important to have at least 2 Google My Business page. So for example, with Universum, we have one agency in Brussels and one in Jean-Blou. We can say, okay, it can be interesting to have both Google My Business page. Perhaps on the website, we will combine both on the contact page, because it's not interesting. The aim is always to start from the research. So if you see that people are searching for your company in Brussels and the company in Jean-Blou, it's important to have 2 different pages. If you say you see that it didn't make any local research about your company, it means that it's not really interesting on your website to have different page. It also depends on how you want to communicate. If you have different information, different marketing strategy according to the location, in that case, perhaps it's interesting to have different page. I hope that it answers the question about B2B. In meta description, the numbers of character, it's 160. It's an average, because according to the device, it can switch for Google, it can make some changes, but we try to stay at 160. For the H1, there are no really limit of characters needed. It's more about how the website is done, so the displays you have. So it's always better to try to fit in one line. So if you say that you don't have, for example, when the H1 is really big, sometimes with only 5 words, we say that, and we see that it's in 2 lines. So try just to keep one line. It's easier for the readers and users on the website. The last part to optimize for the third-party websites is for the local SEO, it's the third-party websites. So it's all kind of website where they can, for user or you, can add some pages about your company or your stores. So for example, you can be visible on Yelp, on TripAdvisor, on social networks, on some pages like openinghours.com and so on. So try to find as much as third-party website as possible. It will help you to gain visibility online, because it will not be only your website or your Google My Business, but also your visibility on a lot of other kind of results possible. Always be sure that on those websites you add the same information that you have on your website and Google My Business. So consistency is always the secret. And also on those websites, people can always add comments and reviews. So don't forget to check them and be sure to answer and react to them, especially if they are negative one. So it was more the global recommendation for local SEO, but we see also some specific tips that you can add for now for in the specific crisis that we are living. Of course, like I said before, the opening hours is really important. So if you had to close the store, be sure that you show that it's closed. And if you can reopen again the store, for example, since the 11th of May, be sure that you think to update it, and then that you add the specific hours perhaps that you will propose. You can also update your phone number, and then to be sure that you are still accessible in your company. So for example, if you have to do home working, but the phone number you propose on the Google My Business page is a fixed number, perhaps you don't have the connection between the fixed and your mobile phone, be sure to switch. So you should be sure that people can contact you. The other things to optimize is the URL website. So be sure that, for example, if you have specific measure taken in your store about the coronavirus health, you can perhaps change the website URL for now to give this information and a link to this web page, to be sure to make a reassurance to make people have more trust in what you put in place for your website, for your company, for your store, and make them want to come back to it. Another thing that you can update is the attributes. So, for example, if you put in place some new stuff, for example, the food delivery in your restaurant is something that you can add. If you, for example, you have a shop and before you didn't put payment by card but only cash, but now of course with the measure you have to take the card, you can add these specific attributes. So if you have new attributes, don't forget to add them. And also, if you can inform by post about all the measures you take to be sure that your clients are safe in your store, don't hesitate to mention it and to communicate it also on your Google My Business page, because it's a really big visibility, and we know that users will be scared to come back to stores and they will prefer to stay home. So if you can give them some information that can make them more in peace and make them more want to come to your store again, don't hesitate. And also, don't forget to check the answer and the reviews, because it's possible that a lot of users will ask you some information about what you are putting in place for the health measure. So don't forget to answer to them. Is it okay for you about local SEO, or is it any question before starting the third and last point? I'm just waiting 30 seconds. Okay, I will continue with the last part of this webinar. So like I said, we see that people have to take some physical distance with the customers, and then it can be it can create some fears that the clients will forget you, will not remember that you exist when they will have more interest in your product again. So how can you still have some create some customer relationship in this specific period? The first one is to be sure that to stay in touch with your customer. So it's for me, content marketing is the best way to do it, because there are a lot of diversity in content marketing that we sometimes not think about. So for example, if you don't dare to advertise because you know that the interest is lower, so it will be too much money for no really not a lot of return in investment, you can perhaps take some part of this budget to create some new content. So this content will help you attract the smaller interests that are still present and available for your activities. So even if we see that they are decreasing, there are still people searching for you. So don't forget them, even if the audience is lower. And also it will be important for you to already communicate now and put some content on your website now, to be sure that when the interest will be back, you will be sure that your content is well optimized and has some power, because for SEO, it's always a long-term strategy. So it means that what you publish now will not have effect today or tomorrow, but perhaps in 1, 2, 3 weeks. So be sure that if you publish now, it will gain power and it will gain some popularity that will make this content stronger in 2, 3, or 4 weeks, when the interest will be increasing. And if your competitors don't communicate now and don't put content now on their website, your content will be better because you are here before them. I just read what's the question in the chat. Yes, so about meta keywords, it's some tags that we can put on some CMS and some web page. Indeed, it's been a few years now that Google didn't check at those keywords anymore. The only thing important is to diversify your keywords inside your content. So be sure that you have one main keywords that you will focus on the title, for example, and on the rest of the content, you will integrate other keywords always related to this thematic. So you stay on the same thematic, you have one focus keywords, and then you put other long tail keywords related to it. So yes, it's true. And yes, for the title tag, I say yes, 65 to 70 characters. But for example, on mobile, sometimes it's reduced. So be sure that you put the most important information at the beginning of the title tag. And like that, if you are cut in mobile, you are sure that what's cut is not the main important information. So always the main keywords at the beginning of the title tag. So I go back to my slide. So why content is important now? So I said it's also to be sure to have powerful content when the interest will be back in the coming weeks, but also to stay on the top of mind of your users. So if you don't communicate at all now and you didn't publish anything now for 1 month or even 2 months, of course, users will forget you, and when they will have interest in your product or services in 2 or 3 weeks, they will more go to another company that communicate with them in this period. So always think to stay on their top of mind, and also to create a strong relationship with them. So we can give you, of course, some ideas of content you can publish now. Perhaps you will not be focused as before on your product or services, but more on more community content, as I can say. So, for example, if you made some solidarity initiatives with your company, so you make some donation or you create some protection for healthcare and so on, this is always nice information to share with your customers. So you can publish on your website a blog post, you can share on your social networks, you can share also with a video and so on. You can also propose some do-it-yourself content. So for example, you are in fashion, you know that now the interest in fashion goods are decreasing, but you can still share some tips for doing yourself with some couture. And for example, you can say, okay, how can you make a shirt by yourself and so on. You know also that parents are a lot had to stay home with their kids, and it's really not easy if they have to balance between work and make the kids busy. So if your target are parents, it's always nice to give them tips to keep the kids busy. You can also put content about what you can do at home, so the workouts, the gardening. There are plenty of ideas of what people can do when they have to stay home, and also, of course, how to stay healthy. So there are a lot of ideas, and I'm sure that you can find some topics that are related to your activities and can be still interesting for users right now. Also try to diversify the support. So don't also think about the blog post, even if it's important for SEO. Always try to create some videos, some podcasts, some streaming. There are really plenty of ideas. So always think about creativity. I will show you now some example of companies that communicate during this period, if it can work. Up. So for example, here Audi and Volkswagen just make a little clip. So it's not commercial, but only just to stay in mind and say, okay, we think about you. We know that you have to take some distance, but we are still here for you. So it's just a small change of the logo, but it means a lot. IKEA also launched a new catalog, but with pictures of their products that kids can color. So it's really, really interesting for them. Burger Kings, for example, give some do-it-yourself ideas because they cannot sell their hamburger. They propose to users to make them at home with really common and current products they can find at food shops. And another example is with Decathlon that make partnerships with Basic Fit to give some video on Instagram about some home workouts. So you see that there are really a lot of ideas you can be inspired to communicate with your client right now. Just follow the rules. The first one is, of course, to know your audiences. So know to who you are talking to, because if you are, for example, talking to parents, you know that it will not be the same challenge than for some kids or some adolescents or even senior people. So if you know your audience, you will better understand their needs right now. And so you will be able to give them the right content now and also at the right place. So if you know your audience, you will know if the social network is important, if you should post on Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. So know your audience and also be creative is the main important thing. So I think the question is how much time we should publish to be seen. I will just speak about websites. For example, if you are publishing a blog post today, we know that Google will take time to crawl the content and publish it and make it indexed and well ranked. So we always recommend to publish a blog post a little bit before the peak of research. So for example, if we speak about some the sales of July, you will publish your content a little bit before July already try to have a page like to say, okay, incoming sales or stuff like that. To be sure that to let time to Google to go on your website. The time it will come will depend of your website, because if you have a big website with fresh content several times per day, Google will come more often than if you have a website that only publish new content each week or each month. So that's why it's also important to be more regular, because if you publish each week, for example, a blog post, it will make Google understand that you publish each week new content, so it should come. Of course, there are other ways to communicate your content. So if you have, for example, a blog post about something really interesting today, even if it will not be indexed today, you can still share it with a newsletter or a post on Facebook and so on to make it seen by the user. And there, the frequency, I don't know, it depends. For example, for a newsletter, normally people will open it in the day. If they don't open the newsletter in the day, there are a lot of chances that they will not open it at all. So yes, it depends of the audience on the other channel. So it's the end of the presentation with the third part about content marketing. I will go now on the conclusion. I will let some space and some time after that for some question if you need. So the conclusion, basically, it's just to be ready for the unpredictable, because we know that's what will come now. We cannot predict it, because even the government don't really know exactly how it will move with the measures. So he moves step by step. So we know that perhaps at the end of May we see the second wave, and so the shop will have to close again. So try to always think about all the different scenario possible, because if you think about all the scenario and you don't minimize the impact of them, so you don't say, no, it's impossible, everything will go white, you will not be prepared for the bad situation possible. So always try to foresee the different scenario and be prepared to the worst, to be flexible and adaptable, and be able to react whatever happens in the coming weeks. And also the last, if I have to give you just one tip at the end of this presentation, is to be sure that you think about a digital transformation, because we know that now online and digital is really important, but don't only focus on one side of the digital. So there are plenty of things that you can do. So there are still advertising, there are still SEO, analytics, newsletter, and so on. Be sure that you think about all the possibility, but just rebalance according the situation. So we know that now the advertising is perhaps not the best way to contact your customer, but it didn't mean that you have to cut all the advertising. Just perhaps make it smaller, and improve your invest in SEO or content marketing. You will adjust your strategy according to the situation, but always think the fact that they all work together, and also offline and online go also together. So don't focus only on online, even if you see that now it's even more important than before. But don't forget the offline, because people still want to go outside, and they will still go on your store when it will be reopened. Perhaps it will take times, but they will still go. So never forget it, and try to always have all the side of marketing in your mind. I don't know if you have still question. I can stay like 5 or 10 minutes more, and if you want, you can still, of course, contact me by email, or even send an email to Universum if you want to ask your question, if you don't dare to do it here in the chat. I also hope that it helps you, because it's always difficult in 1 hour to give tips that can fit everyone. But I hope that you will that you think it was interesting, and you have some tips to directly implement on your company. Thank you also to you. Thank you too. I have the feeling that there are no questions, so don't hesitate. We are still available after the webinar. Okay, so I think that we are done, and I wish you a good appetite if you go to meal now. And most of all, stay safe. Okay, so bye-bye, everybody. I close the webinar now.